Stocks climbed, reacting to Trump's easing tariffs on imports of electronics, computers and chips after a market holiday. Realty and industrials are the biggest gainers, while FMCG lags. Auto stocks rev up on expectation of a pause on tariffs for cars and part makers after US President Donald Trump says that he is looking to help car makers by giving them time to move manufacturing to the United States. Days after the RBI cut repo rate by 25 basis points and signaled a shift to an accommodative stance, top banks HDFC Bank and Axis Bank have cut rates on saving deposits. The move props up bank stocks. The stock of macrotech developers perks up after brothers Abhishek and Abhinandan Lodha amicably settle the differences with macrotech retaining the exclusive use of Lodha as well as Lodha Group brand, while Abhinandan Lodha will have the sole rights on the House of Abhinandan Lodha brand. Inflation continues to show signs of easing, with the WPI for the month of March falling to 2.05% from nearly 2.4% in February. Food price inflation continues to decline, while a minor rise was seen in fuel and power inflation. CPI for the month of March will be released post-market hours today. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into Business Lunch, coming live from CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal Studios. I'm Vinny Motiwala, and thank you so much for tuning in as always. Now, Friday did see a rebound, and today seems to be the day that we see this continue as well. And green is continuing on the screen, opened up on almost 2% uptick, managing to hold on to that gain as of now as well. Nifty 2.3% gain as of now is what we're seeing, 23,300 levels in the get-go, up 500 points in today's trading session. Let's look at the Nifty Bank as well, because that is managing to hold on to good gains as well. So Nifty Bank holding on to gains of almost 2.5%. Mid and small cap continuing to perform in line with the benchmark indices as well, both managing to hold on to strong gains in today's trading session, both up more than 2%. Let's also see the top sectoral gainer today, Realty, like we were talking about that. So Realty is the top sectoral gainer. As of now, all sectors are trading in the green. Even the Nifty FMCG, when you look at it, very, very mild gains. But yes, that's also managing to hold on to some bit of a gain in today's trading session. Banks, that's doing well. So HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank among the top gainers. L&T as well as Reliance is the top contributors for the Nifty 50. On the flip side, we have ITC, HUL and Nestle, which is a bit of a drag. And that is why those FMCG names are, a bit subdued in today's trading session. And that's why the Nifty FMCG as a whole also is seeing a bit of a mutedness. Just 0.04% gain recovered from the day's lowest point as of now. But we'll keep an eye out on where that's headed. But yes, that's how the market setup is looking like as of now, holding on to that green. But important updates coming in the tariff front, right? US President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariff continues to waver. Now, let's break down the latest in terms of the surprise guidance issued by the United States Custom and Border Protection on Friday, and said that smartphones, computers are among other tech products that had been exempted from reciprocal tariffs. The guidance included exclusion of other electronic devices as well as components, including semiconductors, solar cells, flash drives, as well as memory cards. The White House said this in a statement, and that the exemptions were made because Trump wants to ensure that companies have time to move production to the United States. Day later, Trump said that and clarified that nobody was off the hook yet, and that there was no tariff rollback. Speaking to reporters on board of the Air Force One, Trump said that tariffs on imported semiconductor chips would be levied soon. Meanwhile, the president reiterated his stance to impose tariffs on pharma soon, but however suggested that he might temporarily exempt some auto manufacturers from tariffs to give car makers time to adjust to their supply chains. Listen in.
We don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland, and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very simple. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come. And yeah, we're going to be doing that. That's going to be like we have on cars. We have, as you know, a 25% tariff on cars. We have a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. And that's what that category fits right now. Looking at something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places. And they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here. But they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
Okay, now as this Trump tariff saga is continuing, today we have auto stocks that are in focus like Samvardhana Motherson, Sona BLW. Why? Because US President Donald Trump says that he is considering a modification to the 25% tariff on auto imports. Sudarshan is here to give us more details on this one. Sudarshan?
As you have mentioned, US President Donald Trump has been making statements related to tariffs, and the latest one that he has made is related to the auto sector. Over the weekend, he has said that he is looking at the modification of the tariffs that were announced related to auto sector, 25% tariffs, and especially for the imports that are being done from Mexico and Canada. He believes that US companies need a bit more time related to this tariff, and that's the reason he has taken this stand. Now, why it's positive for Samvardhana Motherson and Sona BLW? So for all the US companies, imports from Mexico and Canada form nearly 30 to 60% of their total sales that are done in the US. And for companies like General Motors and Toyota, that is in the range of 30 to 40%, while for company like Volkswagen, it goes to up to 60%. Now, for Samvardhana Motherson, it's one of the biggest suppliers to these companies. You name it, General Motors, Toyota, or Volkswagen, and that's the reason it's positive. And as far as Mexico is concerned, it contributes almost 4% to Samvardhana Motherson's total revenue. For Sona BLW, Mexico forms nearly 2 to 3% to its total revenue, and that's the reason you are seeing a big move in these names. And apart from Sona BLW and Motherson, you are seeing a big move in other auto stocks like Tata Motors and Bharti as well, because now the question is, will the US President Donald Trump easing the stance only on the imports from Mexico and Canada, or will it extend to other imports from other countries as well? And just factoring this thing, you are seeing a big move, and Tata Motors is one of the top Nifty gainers, up around 5%, and same move can be seen in other companies as well.
Okay, Sudarshan, thank you so much for that, keeping an eye out on these stocks in today's trading session specifically. But let's move on and let's get you an exclusive. Now, sources say that special investigation team set up by the Andhra Pradesh government has ordered the freezing of bank accounts of allied blenders and distillers in connection with the Andhra Pradesh liquor scam. Shilpa is here to give us more details on this one. Shilpa.
Well, you're absolutely right there. We have accessed a letter that the special investigation team set up by the Andhra Pradesh government has sent to State Bank of India dated 10th of April, where it has ordered the freezing of certain accounts of allied blenders. And this is in regard with the ongoing investigation that is happening with regards to a liquor scam in the state. Now, the letter accessed by CNBC says that, there were some suspicious transactions that they have noticed in these accounts, and so have asked SBI to freeze those accounts of ABD. Now, let me give you a little bit of a background. Now, this is regarding a liquor scam that is being investigated in the state. Now, the Andhra Pradesh government, led by the Telugu Desam party, had constituted the SIT on 6th of November to probe an alleged 4,000 crore scam. That is the amount that is being pegged as of now. And they're investigating to see if liquor companies had paid kickbacks to the earlier government. Now, this is, the scam has allegedly happened during the previous regime, which is the YSRCP government, to see if the YSRCP government had received any kickbacks, in return for orders and sales in Andhra Pradesh in the state. And, it is also investigating allegations that, did the Andhra government then shut out all the national brands and only allowed a sale of certain specific brands, especially some local brands only allegedly were allowed, like Governor's Choice, President Metal, Seventh Heaven. These were some local brands, and certain only national brands, which the allegation here is that it was ABD. But it is important to note that currently these are just allegations. The SIT probe is ongoing, though it is near completion, and a charge sheet is expected to be filed in 4 to 6 weeks. Now, we reached out to ABD to comment on the same, and they have said that they have not received any letter or intimation yet from the bank or from any other authority. So, so far the order has been sent to SBI, but that's what the company is saying, that they have not received any intimation. We'll keep you updated on any further updates on on this case. Back to you.
Okay, Shilpa, thank you so much for that. As of now, Allied Blenders is down almost 7.8% in this trading session. But let's move on. And the WPI inflation data that's just come in for the month of March and was released earlier today, where the wholesale inflation is easing to 2.05% in March from nearly around 2.4% that we saw in the month of February. Food price inflation that continues to decline, while a minor rise was seen in fuel as well as power inflation. Remember, the CPI inflation for the month of March will also be released post market hours today, so we'll be watching out for that important data point as well. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, viewers. Up next, we'll get you the views on US economy and the impact of Trump's tariff agenda could have on the growth rates across the globe and geopolitics. How is that shaping up? Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Now let's move on. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink told CNBC earlier that US is very close to a recession and maybe in one now. Listen in.
I think we're very close, if not in a recession now. What may be...
You don't need that.
Good. What may be happening is a lot of people are buying in advance of the elevated increases, like lines around Apple stores buying iPhones and all that stuff. But I believe all the uncertainty is really making everyone pause. And everyone's waiting and seeing. And so I think you're going to see this across the board. We just say slow down until we have more certainty. Yeah. And, you know, we now have a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariff. That means longer, more elevated uncertainty. Another economic force, Jim, post-World War II was consumerism. So we built the whole foundation of economic policy around consumerism, providing Americans with the cheapest products. Right. And so that was the foundation. Now, did that come at a cost that some of our communities were decimated, where they lost jobs? Absolutely. So maybe we went too far on the whole concept of consumerism. But let's be clear, the major economic foundation was based on consumerism. And so we wanted our companies to go around the world to find the best places to provide the highest quality at the cheapest prices. By now changing this equilibrium, it's going to be harder to consume.
Now, billionaire Ray Dalio, in a conversation with NBC, said that he's worried about something worse than a recession. He claimed that the world may be moving towards an order that may cause great conflict. Listen into what he had to say.
I think we'll see. So far, very disruptive. Right? And so we don't know what the numbers are. But that could be part of a process, right? It depends where we are at the end of the 90 days. Because what was put there is like throwing rocks into the production system. And those impacts would be enormous in terms of the efficiency of the whole world. Great cost.
I want to ask you about something that's on a lot of people's minds, your predictions for the future. And I want to start with the R word. I know you think this is just a piece of it. Of course, I'm talking about a recession. Do you think it is likely that the United States will dip into a recession because of President Trump's tariffs?
I think that right now we are at a decision-making point and very close to a recession. And I'm worried about something worse than a recession if this isn't handled well. A recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, and whether it goes slightly there, we always have those things. We have something that's much more profound. We have a breaking down of the monetary order. We are going to change the monetary order because we cannot spend the amounts of money, so we have that problem. And when we talk about the dollar and we talk about tariffs, we have that. We are having profound changes in our domestic order, how ruling is existing, and we're having profound changes in the world order. Such times are very much like the 1930s. I've studied history, and this repeats over and over again. So if you take tariffs, if you take debt, if you take the rising power challenging the existing power, if you take those factors and look at the factors, those changes in the orders, the systems, are very, very disruptive.
worse than recession. You're saying this is reminiscent of the 1930s. We should tell our viewers you correctly predicted the 2008 financial crisis. What is your prediction for where the country is headed right now?
Right now, we're at a juncture. Let's take the budget. If the budget deficit can be reduced to 3% of GDP, it will be about 7% if things are not changed. If it could be reduced to about 3% of GDP, and these trade deficits and so on are managed in the right way, this could all be managed very well. I believe that members of Congress should take the pledge, what I call the 3% pledge, that in one way or another, that they will get that budget deficit down to that number. If they don't, we're going to have a supply-demand problem for debt at the same time as we have these other problems. And the results of that will be worse than a normal recession.
And let's move on to some more international updates. In the United States and Iran completed the first round of indirect talks over a potential nuclear deal over the weekend. The talks held in Oman were constructive and held in a calm and respectful environment, as per the Iranian foreign minister. The U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff also affirmed that the talks were held in a peaceful and constructive atmosphere. The countries will again meet for indirect discussions on the 19th of April. U.S. President Donald Trump also commented on the talks. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
I want them to be a rich, great nation. The only thing is, one thing, simple. It's really simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. And they got to go fast because they're fairly close to having one. And they're not going to have one. And if we have to do something very harsh, we'll do it. And I'm not doing it for us. I'm doing it for the world.
And moving on, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg testified in a historic antitrust case against the U.S. Federal Trade Commission earlier today. CNBC's Amon Javers is joining in with us to give us more details on this one.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg wrapping up the first of what we expect to be 2 days of testimony here in Washington, D.C. Over the FTC's case that Meta's acquisition of Instagram back in 2012 and its acquisition of WhatsApp in 2014 amounted to anti-competitive conduct because they essentially strangled the competition in the cradle at that time and allowed Facebook, now Meta, to grow unhindered by aggressive competition. Now, Meta has been arguing in court through the day on Monday that that's a ludicrous case. They say that this case is way too late, should have been filed years ago, if at all. And on the merits, they say the case fails because there is competition. They point to TikTok being one of the big competitors here for Meta. We do expect on Tuesday to see Mark Zuckerberg testifying again, and we expect that this case will run several weeks. So no decision expected anytime in the month of April necessarily. But at some point here, Meta, if they lose this case, could be forced to spin off WhatsApp and Instagram. For CNBC Business News, I'm Eamon Javers in Washington.
Thank you so much for that. But on that note, we're going to skip to a very short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Nifty managing to hold on to those 23,300 levels. No major move that we've seen in today's trading session. But here's some important corporate commentary that we have coming in. ITC CMD Sanjeev Puri has said that the tariff uncertainty can help India to get new opportunities in the global markets. My colleague Shivani began by asking him about the potential impact of Trump tariffs on Indian goods. Listen in.
While there is a lot of uncertainty, my sense is that it will open up. It will open up a lot more opportunity for interest for the industry as the bilateral trade agreements get signed, and not only with the US. I think we are hopeful that we should see one with the EU and UK during the year, and that does create a lot more opportunity for the Indian industry. Gives an opportunity to integrate with global value chains. 70% of the global, trade is in the global value chains. So I think ultimately it will turn out to be good for India. And I think the other good news is that India has its own momentum. So despite the uncertainty, I think India will continue to progress and remain a resilient economy as we have demonstrated in the past.
Well, sir, what seems to be the biggest highlight of this entire trade war is the dynamic between China and India. While the industry has always maintained that, the China plus one strategy has not played out that well for India, do you think this is the time when we need to navigate it better and it could open up opportunities for the industry?
No, as I said, with the bilateral agreements and with the EU, and EU and US are large trading partners. EU, we have been in discussion for quite some time, maybe nearly 20 years or so. And UK. So all of these are markets where there is a lot of opportunity. And I'm quite hopeful that ultimately it's going to be beneficial. Short term, there may be some uncertainty, but it will be beneficial and it will open up a lot more opportunity for the industry. Of course, to leverage the opportunity, we'll have to do our bit in investments and IP and innovation and all of that, yeah.
So last question, since our Commerce Ministry is also in talks with the US and EU, as you said, bilateral, what are the key points that you think from the industry's perspective, that they should put on the table? Is there something that you think should be brought in from India's side in this entire, management of things?
No, first of all, I think all these agreements work well when it is mutually beneficial, of course. The second is, I think we have to be careful about rules of origin. I think this would be an important thing to be keep in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is, as the new trade regimes emerge because of the tariffs and certain places which have face higher tariffs, we might see dumping of goods in India. And that's something that we need to be cognizant of and have agile responses to that. The good news is that the government has already announced setting up a group to monitor that closely. We're already faced with dumping in several sectors already, and their investigation. No, not only steel, there are other sectors as well. There is paperboard, there are some chemicals and so on and so forth. So several sectors are there. So it's important that there is a close monitoring and quick action on it. And I think we're quite encouraged by the fact that the government has already announced setting up a group.
And with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Business Lunch on CNBC TV 18. Thank you so much for tuning in. Up next, your Midcap Radar.